What's up, Internet? My name's Ori. It is Wednesday, September 24th, day number 79 inside the Big Brother house. The most important veto competition of the season took place yesterday, and that leads us to one of the most important decisions of the season that will need to take place. Who will make it to the final three along with Morgan? Let's talk about that, plus all the intel drama and more from yesterday's live feeds. But first, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video, you'll never miss a stream. A little bit of a recap for you. If you guys haven't been keeping up with everything going on after a live endurance HOH, which was on the feeds, it was won by Vince. And in a fast-paced day, he put up Keanu and Ava. And just a few hours later, Morgan had won the power of veto. And it all led to a very slow week, which we were just waiting for the unique eviction to take place. It finally came, and Keanu was evicted. Morgan going on to win the final four HOH, and she nominated Ava and Ashley. But as we all know, all that matters in the final four is the veto. They will have the say on who has the final vote and deciding who goes to the final three along with them and Morgan. Veto, like I said, took place today, and it was another comp that they actually kind of complained about, said was a little too physical, but also had a puzzle involved with days and events that they had to go over. And in this competition, with another clutch victory, at this point, it's complete domination. Morgan pulls off another win. She now has full control on who will be going to the final three, who has the say on who gets eliminated here. It is all in Morgan's hands as she has both the HOH key and the veto medallion. In fact, I believe she is the first HOH to win both competitions in 1 week this season. Like I said, absolute domination from Morgan at this point. And now, despite almost everyone, and I mean everyone, both inside the house and out, knowing that Morgan is going to win if she makes it to the final two, what's kind of interesting, she doesn't actually think that's true. And I don't know, maybe she's just covering her bases in case she were to lose the final three HOH. But Morgan has been saying that she doesn't think that she can win, and that even though she has all of these competition wins, that the jury isn't only going to be thinking of competition wins, and she is doubting herself. Meanwhile, all of them are kind of just pumping her up. Like, the big thing is they all just want Morgan to really believe in herself so that they will take that she will end up taking them to the final two with them. Vince was pumping her up, telling Morgan that, like, this isn't a joke. Like, you are going to have one of the best games that anybody's ever seen in Big Brother. Like, you want to talk about big moves? You getting me to get rid of Lauren was a gigantic move. It was a massive move. Morgan's like, yeah, but only because I won the veto. And Vince is like, yeah, and you earned that. And then you got me to put somebody else up that I never would have otherwise. Like, you made big moves in this. We also ended up getting Ashley, who ended up trying to say to the cameras and to our us on it that, I know that at this point, there's not much I can do other than to launch Operation Second Place for Ashley. She is now determined to try and convince Morgan to take her to the final two. Ashley worked on Morgan, saying that, it's either going to be Morgan or Vince who will win this game. And whoever ends up taking Ashley to the final two will be locked in to win. Ashley tells Morgan that, she loves Vince, right? I get it. But in 4 days, you will have to decide if you want a guaranteed 750K or if you want to take a $750,000 gamble. And she says, I don't know what's best for either of them. And I don't know who would win against each other if you were sitting next to each other in the end. I just know whoever sits next to me, they're getting that check. They're winning. And Morgan says she knows, and she's torn between, her head and her heart on whether or not she should cut Vince. And Ashley reminds her, like, listen, there's been other alliances who have done this, right? The cookout, they had to cut each other. Every alliance has had to cut each other over time, but they end up friends afterwards. It's all okay. And Morgan told her about the early alliance that she actually had with Vince and Zach, and how they were really kind of a trio there for a long time. So this even goes past the judges, and there's her and Vince being a duo. They've been tight since the very start of this game, and Ashley tells Morgan that, it just comes down to money versus feelings, right? At the end of the day, you have to decide what's more important to you. And she says, you have to go with your feelings, not his. And I think, he would go with his feelings. I think, you would have to be like, what do I care more about? You have to make that decisions. What would your parents say? And Morgan said it's hard. We've struggled with money, so they would want me, to go for that money, but they know, who I am as a person as well, and it's just I'm just so torn. I'm so torn, Ashley. And Ashley goes and she continues to give points on, on why it would be good for her to cut Vince and take her to the end. And how it would be a thing where Morgan against Vince, it would be so close in that vote. And she'd be a better lock for Morgan if she took her to the end. She says, he's the HOH king and you're the veto queen. It's so close between the two of you. You guys both have such good games. I don't know who would win. And Morgan says she hasn't made her decision. And Ashley says, listen, you have a couple of days to really think about it, but I just wanted to put that out there. We also had another interesting thing where Vince ended up telling Ashley and Morgan that the judges was the best alliance for him. And he said no one suspected it. And he said, you know what? It's the best kept secret of the game. He's like, it's the only best kept secret I have of this game. We ended up also getting Ava and Vince having a little conversation where she tells him, like, the universe brought us together for a reason. And Ava, warns Vince. She said, you know what? What's stopping Morgan from taking Ashley in the final two? And Vince says, I know, I worry about that. And I don't think Morgan wants to sit, next to you, Ava. And I think she sees you more as a threat as to win. And Ava's like, the girl has 7 comp wins, 5 vetoes. Like, what is she scared to sit next to me for? I ain't got no jury votes. And she says, if you want to be in the final 2 chairs, Vince, if you bring me, Morgan is not bringing me. And I would bring you if I were to win, because I'm not bringing Morgan to the end. And Vince says, when it comes to the final 3 argument, that's the most as compelling as it gets, right? Like, you can't get a better argument than that. And Vince says he'll run all the possibilities in his head tonight and he'll really think it over. And Ava says Ashley thinks she has the votes in the end, right? Like, she thinks she will win this game. And this is what I was talking about just in yesterday's update, that Ashley had no reason telling Ava that she feels like she would beat Vince in the end and that Vince doesn't have a shot against her. This was just ammunition for Ava to use. I don't know if it's really going to even matter to Vince at this point, but it is still ammunition that Ava is now able to use against Ashley. And these are the type of things where sometimes I'm just like, Ashley, you're good at this game, but sometimes the playing dumb thing, sometimes I feel like it's not an act. And I think you do sometimes slip up and you have to kind of acknowledge that. Vince tells Ava, though, that he's 50-50. And, he says he's going to Ava just says if he's going to pick Ashley, she just prefer to know beforehand, like, give her, the heads up before the video meeting. And if you bring Ashley and Morgan ends up bringing Ashley, you're gonna regret this, Vince. You're gonna regret this for the rest of your life if you don't get to that final 2 chair. I honestly, Ashley kind of seems to have accepted that Vince is not going to take her over Ashley, but she does have a little bit of a camera talk to us on the cams, saying whether or not she should actually go to Morgan and tell her about how much Vince was involved in the Will Adrian vote, and potentially even about the play that was going on with the veto with Morgan. Ashley ends up having a chat with Ava where she says, like, yeah, you should go talk to Morgan, right? Like, at least give it a try to save yourself. Ashley, why encourage Ava to go do this? There's no reason to go encourage Ava to do this. All this would do would go badly for you, Ashley. There's no benefit in you telling Ava to go talk to Morgan, but yet you're telling her to do this. And Ava says, she just doesn't want to. And Ava tells Ashley that the way Morgan looks at Vince and them sleeping in the bed every night, like they are besties. Like there's almost like no point in going up and talking to him. And Ashley's like, Ava, go tell Morgan, right? You go tell Morgan about Vince being involved in that will vote, and Morgan comes to me and asks me about it, I'll collaborate. I'll tell her it's true. Again, Ashley, why are you doing this? There's no reason for you to be doing this with Ava, right? Like the only potential reason that you would be saying and having this kind of a conversation with Ava would be to try and gain her jury vote. You probably already would have her jury vote if you were to get there in the end. But even on top of that, like the chances of you getting to the end are with Ava not here. So you telling Morgan to go try and make your case to, or telling Ava to go make her case to Morgan is only putting your own game in danger, Ashley. Like, this is kind of what I'm talking about, where it's sometimes like Ashley does really well and is sometimes she doesn't. All of these players are so flawed in this game. It's infuriating. Vince is flawed. Morgan's flawed. Ava sleeps a lot. But it is kind of a thing where Ashley pushing Ava to go do this doesn't make really sense for her game. But it did seem like Ava might have accepted her fate there for a little bit. She was really teary eyed, just crying in bed. But she does, though, go and give it a shot and have a chat with Morgan. Morgan tells Ava that, she would never have Lauren, Kelly, or Will's vote if she were against Ava, and that she really feels like there's a good chance that she would lose if she was sitting against Ava. And Ava's like, I'm flattered, but I don't think that's true. Like, you're probably going to win this game, Morgan. And Ava tells Morgan that she needs to go with her cut and question if Vince would do the same for her. Afterwards, we did get Morgan alone, and she kind of muttered to herself in the cameras, like, I know what I need to do. Like, I need to win this HOH to have a fighting chance. Again, I feel like she really doesn't believe she has a chance to win this game at this moment where we all know, everyone in the house all knows, hell, everyone in the jury house all knows that Morgan is going to win this game if she's sitting in the final two chairs. The only person in the world who doesn't know that Morgan will win this game is Morgan. And that's kind of crazy that she doesn't have that kind of faith in herself. And she just says she doesn't know what she really needs to do in the end and who she would take to the final two. So is she really having doubts on whether or not she should take Vince? Well, we do end up getting Vince and Morgan, talking, and really all of them were talking up in the HOH room for a long time. But one of the things that Vince was saying to Morgan is this is kind of a question of, should we, or like can we go tell Ava about the alliance and explain to her why we're not taking her to the end? Morgan says, like, I don't think that's a good idea. We should probably just wait for the goodbye messages. And that, she had talked to Ashley about that earlier. And, I just don't think that's probably a good idea. Ashley would be mad if we ended up telling her before she did as well. So we should probably just wait to end up having that conversation. And Morgan also tells Vince that Ashley is the definition of getting carried to the end, and she knows it. And they talk about, the conversation that they had earlier. And again, why, Ashley would feel upset if they told Ava, and how Ashley feels like, she doesn't win in the end. So pretty much just telling her everything, telling Vince everything that Ashley was saying in that conversation for the most part. She also ends up teasing him a little bit. Eventually, when it was just them up in the HOH room, she was saying, "Here, watch this. Watch the TV." And she runs down to the memory wall. She takes the veto off the hook and actually puts it over Ava's picture on the memory wall, like implying that she would use it on Ava. They went back upstairs, and she ended up actually telling Vince that her and Jimmy ended up ratting out the heavy hitters almost immediately to Mickey early on when that was formed. So just lots of little like back and forth chats, and they just have this dynamic between them, right? We've all seen it, right? They really do care for each other in this game, and there's just a lot that's going on here. Eventually, though, Vince does ask Morgan, like, "Hey, like, what's on your mind? Like, what are you thinking?" And she just says, Ava is just the sweetest 24-year-old, and she said all she wanted was for her family to be there on finale night, but this is a game and you can't make decisions like that because one small little decision can change the entire trajectory of the game. And she also tells them that she feels like all of them deserve to be at the end, and it's just so hard. And they just keep going on their same loops over and over. But eventually they all do kind of head to bed. But with Vince and Morgan, heading to bed is just kind of really the start. And they go back and forth with their little chats. And then eventually it gets to a weird place. I'm going to be a little bit honest, and it was kind of hard to watch. It was cut away from a lot as well. Like, it did seem like they were trying to hide a little bit of this conversation. It was also in code a lot of the time, so it was kind of hard to keep track of everything. But eventually Morgan kind of says like her brain keeps bouncing back and forth from the other night, and she doesn't know why. And she says it was the same week as his HOH. And she remembers that he made some comment about if he was gaming her or not. And she kind of wonders ever since, is it the reverse and that he's gaming her? And Vince tells Morgan that it's the environment and it's that it's just so hard, to verbally say what you want to do. And, he was cracking up at the time and he was feeling a lot. And, he tells her there's just a lot that he wants to say and he wishes he could say more. But they can't. And he says, "Can we talk about this next week? If we could talk about this next week, would that be okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." But Vince again, he keeps kind of pushing, and he's like, I if she really wants to get rid of him, right? Do you really want to get rid of me this week? Are you really going to send me out of this house? And she says, "I don't want to do that, and I don't have a vote." And he says, "But you could use the veto." And she says, "I don't want to use the veto." And Vince says, "Morgan, have I ruined our friendship?" And she says, "No, there's just a lot of questions." And she wonders if the roles were reversed, would he get rid of her? And he says, "No, we've talked about this a ton, and I physically can't. Like, I can't do that." And she says, "Just because you say that doesn't mean you didn't entertain it." And Vince tells Morgan he doesn't deserve her, and she deserves everything that is good in life, and he's her biggest fan. Will be rooting for her, and he hopes that he never does anything to make her think less of him. And Morgan tells Vince that she still has a lot of questions, but that can happen later, and he's just happy. He'll be happy to answer anything she has to say, to ask, and he doesn't ever want to cross over anything too much. But if she doesn't want him if she wants him in her life, great. If she doesn't, great, and he'll respect whatever. And Morgan even keeps kind of saying like, "Are you really unemployed?" And Vince is like, "Yeah, I've been struggling a lot." And she's like, "Why?" And he just goes over how he'd been feeling lost in life, and he just never had anything he felt passionate about or anything that he was passionate about and good with. And he says how this is the happiest he's felt in his entire life. And he just starts getting really emotional. She gets really emotional as well when she starts telling stories about, kind of her past, and how there were times where she was in debt and she was living with her parents, and just all the struggles they have. And it's just a lot with these two. It really is. And I don't know how this will play out with the two of them. Are they so connected that they just can't cut each other? Or will they actually have like some moment of clarity where they end up making a move? For Morgan, I don't think it matters much, right? I think Morgan, she can take whoever she wants to the final two and she still will win. She just has this doubt in her where she would win against Vince, even though she very much would win pretty handily against Vince. For Vince, it's a huge decision if he were to win that final three HOH. And is he actually playing Morgan? That is still a little bit of a question mark that some of us don't have a lot of answers to. How much of this is real? Because when you're in that game and it's for $750,000, either one of them could be playing either one. And here's a maybe a hot take. That's okay. When you're playing for $750,000, You go and do everything you need to win that game. It's like Ashley was saying earlier. This is about $750,000. It's about, what is more important to you? Feelings about another person, somebody that you've become friends with, somebody you've maybe even become possibly more than friends with. Or is it about the money? What is more important to you? And different people are going to have different reasons. I personally am going to want the person that wants the money more in the game, because that is the more interesting thing. When people let their feelings get in the way, to me, a lot of times that leads to less interesting decisions, the more boring game moves. So I always root for the people who are in there to win, who want that money, who want the crown, who want to be the winner at the end of the day. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Again, it's very emotional between the two of them. And I do worry. I worry a little bit because the thing is, I think Morgan and Vince, they both kind of realize, and I think it's one of those things where, I don't talk about it much on here, but I think it's one of those things where hurt people recognize hurt people. The people who have been in really low points in life, they're able to recognize that in other people. And you do a really good job of hiding it. You do a really good job of putting on a mask and pretending like everything's okay. But there when someone's been in those spots, when someone has really had those low points in life, you recognize it and you see it and you know when someone has really been through things that are similar to you. And I think Morgan and Vince have both been through a lot in life. I think Morgan and Vince have really connected on that deep emotional level. And I think that really is the deep root of this whole situationship that has taken place between the two of them. On top of it, I always talk about how that Big Brother house warps your reality, and things that normally might not affect you as much end up being magnified in that house to just an unbelievable level that you wouldn't really be able to comprehend unless you were in there in that moment. And I don't think any of us really can fully experience what this is like unless you actually do live through it. And it's something that I don't even know if there is a lot of comparisons on this type of weird experiment that puts your emotions at play, where your trust is tested, where your whole world is blocked out, and you have this new world that forms and bonds that form so quickly and so tight. When you think about, how long you might know somebody, you've been in this house now, over 70 days. What are we now at? 79 days, almost 80 days inside that house. That is not the same as if you knew somebody for 80 days in the real world. When you meet somebody, you meet them, you might meet them for 2 hours here on one day. You might not see them for a couple of weeks. You see them again for a couple of days. If you're working with them every day, you see them for 8 hours. You get to go home. When you're in the Big Brother house, 1 week can be the equivalent of 4 weeks in the real world as far as the amount of time you're spending with somebody. And I just don't know how this will play out with both Morgan and Vince. For Vince, he would need to make the cut. For Morgan, I don't think it would matter. And I think she would win either way. But like I said, she doubts herself and doesn't realize that she doesn't need to make that move. And now she even starts to wonder, is Vince really actually playing her? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out as we head on into this very big decision that Morgan will have to make on whether or not she keeps the nominations the same. If she does, Vince will have the final say on who he takes to the end with them. Will it be Ava or Ashley who goes to the final three HOH competition with him and Morgan? If Morgan decides to use it on Ashley, on Ava, they would then get that decision on who would get to go home or at least get to go to jury. And again, for Morgan, I don't think it's a big decision. I think she wins either way. But it is something that maybe could be a little bit of a decision on how she gets to the end. Like I said, Morgan's doubting, but also it seems like Vince maybe is doubting a little bit. Is he playing or would he be this tight with Morgan? it's just such a hard dynamic to really kind of wrap my head around at this moment. So we're gonna have to really just have to see how it all plays out in real time. I think even Ava and Ashley are both at this point like, throw your hands up in the air and just hope for the best. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below about everything going on with all of this. We do have an episode tonight. Don't think I'm going to be able to do a watch party. There's a lot going on. We got the brand new premiere of Survivor, and then there's the Big Brother episode. It's on like super late. And then we also have the watch party that's going to be taking place tomorrow, which we 100% will be live for tomorrow's episode, where we'll see this eviction take place. Tonight's episode will be Keanu's eviction and how all that took place. Tomorrow, like I said, will be the veto meeting, and we'll find out who gets to make the decision, who ends up going to jury. And then we'll also have an episode on Friday. I don't think I'm going to do a watch party with that, but that is kind of the memory lane episode where they have their dinner and the final three kind of go over things that happened during the season, and then they start the final three of the HOH competition. And then we will also have our finale on Sunday, where we will find out the winner of Big Brother 27. Thank you guys all again so much for watching. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button if you like this video. Hit that like button. Hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Thank you guys all again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
Because he's the HOH king and you're the veto queen.